he spoke plainly about these things. So he's not using parables now. He's talking straight stuff. You know, when you're looking at death, you don't kind of beat around the bush. You're direct. I've been in many medical situations with people, and the surgeon comes in, and the surgeon doesn't try to be euphemistic with their diagnosis or the prognosis. They come in and they just speak truth. They just speak the truth. And it's like, whoa. And here Jesus is speaking truth to his disciples. Peter didn't like it. So what's he do? He takes Jesus aside, which we've just had two occurrences where Jesus took the deaf, mute, and the blind person. He took them aside from the crowd. Usually when you're taking someone aside, you're wanting more of a private conversation with the person. And so here's Peter. He doesn't want to embarrass Jesus in front of everybody because Jesus doesn't know what the Messiah is supposed to do. So Peter's going to inform the Lord that's not what Messiahs do. Messiahs don't suffer and they don't die. So he's going to take him to the side and straighten out Jesus. And he rebukes Jesus. You're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Now that's interesting. When you have a religious belief system inside you that is so strong that you will stand before the Lord and let the Lord know that what he's doing is not right, we look at this and we say, I'd never do that. Oh, really? How many times have you had a situation and you are knocking on the Lord's door and you're going to let him know that he's not doing it right? He's not doing it right financially in your life, your family's life. He's not doing right by your kids. He's not doing right by your grandkids. He's not doing right by your neighbor, your enemy. Lord, strike my enemy. No. And here's the audacity of us as human beings to think that we can correct the eternal God. But it happens. I've just been profoundly aware of how loving and patient and kind and long-suffering God is. To put up with us, the way he has put up with us, it's amazing. It's because of his love. It's because he loves us. And he can see the end from the beginning where we can't. And he knows at one point we're going to finally understand. We're going to get it. And if we don't understand intellectually or mentally, we will understand in our heart that he's still good. But Jesus turned. That sounds like we're going from a private correction to more of a public event. And he turns and he looks at his disciples. Okay? So, mind you, if all this is happening while they're on the way, and as they're walking, the rabbi would be in front and he'd be teaching, and it appears that maybe Peter got to the front and kind of intercepted Jesus and took him aside and said, no, you got it wrong, and he rebuked Jesus. And now Jesus, rebuking Peter, turns to all of the other disciples when he sets Peter straight. Now the implication in the gospel is that Peter is actually verbalizing what everybody believes. This is the Jewish faith. This is their understanding of their history and their future, and this is what the Messiah is supposed to do. So Peter's just really the spokesperson. He's the one that's got the personality that blabs before he thinks and comes and speaks up. But Jesus turns and he addresses everybody. And he says, get behind me, Satan. The word for Satan here is adversary, When you're opposing God's plan of redemption, you're an adversary. Because you don't have in mind the things of God, you have in mind the things of men. And so it's like, Peter, get out of my face, get back to where I've called you. I called you to follow me, not to lead me, not to set the course, not to set the direction, but to follow. Now this would probably be a good time for an exhortation for all of us. Because sometimes we think we understand everything in the kingdom, and we're out to tell everybody this is the way God wants it to do, and we try to get everybody lined up. As my beloved administrator says, get her ducks in a row. And that's not our job. Our job is to follow him. And if we're going to lead well and we're not leading very well, then we need to go back and learn, what does it mean to be a good follower? Because if you're not a good follower, you'll never be a good leader. There's some people that are rebellious all the time, never do what they're told, blah, 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 just rebellion. And they have the most difficulty when they finally come into a position of leadership because they've never learned how to follow. You got to learn how to follow. And now Peter, at this point, after all, I'm the one that had the revelation, you are the Christ. I got 5 stars for that one. And now he's reminded of his position. Follow me. You're not to set the course for the Messiah. You're to follow the course that the Messiah has set for us. And it's like, oh, okay. So Peter needs to get back in line behind his master and follow him. And that's what Jesus called him to do.